It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear here. Declare your independence. With me, Ernest Hancock, my good friend Gregg Tivnan visited his oldest daughter graduating from the University of Arizona as an architect, where she's building, bunkers. No, I don't know what she'll be doing, but we got a lot of hopes for her. She's a very, very smart, libertarian-oriented individual with a great brain on her shoulders. Her and Sierra are going to save the planet. And William Buppert, he's editor and publisher of Zero, Z-E-R-O-G-O-V, zerogov.com. He's also a retired Army officer. That's, the quiet professional. But he's not being so quiet as an individual. He's coming out and he's saying, look, man, we got to get ready. Now, what's great about having Gregg in is that he's on the Lone Prairie. He's actually out been for a decade living in his straw bale house, coated concrete, raising chicken. I mean, how many chickens did you, before you left to come out here, you had to buy some chicks, for your business there and so on for them to make. How many did you have to get?
About 1,000.
1,000 chickens, okay? 1,000. I got 19. So I'm like, and 3 goats. I got some goats. How many goats you have?
I don't know, around 40 or so.
How many cows?
About 18.
We're going to go there to not starve, okay? That's, it's like, hey, man, come on in, get behind the plow, Ernie, we're all over it. And you've been able to do this relatively inexpensively. I mean, when you went, you knew that I have skills, we'll do labor, we'll survive. So I'm going, but why would we need to do this, Bill? having these skills and the knowledge that he has, and already the mindset that he had is what made him successful there. I mean, he could have, had more whiz bangs and electronics or whatever, but you survive a decade, 4 seasons in Missouri and floods and all this other stuff, and you have herds that grow and you got some value and you're not going to starve. I say you win, okay? And if it gets down to as bad as we think it's going to get and you have this, he's going to be the rich SOB. That's in comparison.
I think Gregg will be. And we have 9 acres in southern Arizona, and we had 16 plus 20 when we were up in North Idaho. And we also live the rural, I'm hesitant to say self-sufficiency because there's no such thing. As Gregg has probably noticed, I'm being presumptuous, Gregg, when I say this. There are no islands out there because you're going to have in a small community like Gregg's or mine, you're going to have experts on gardening. You're going to have experts on animal husbandry. You're going to have experts on milk. You're going to have experts on eggs. No one person can be that Renaissance man who has all the answers and can live by themselves with their family on an island. Whether it's security considerations, animal husbandry considerations, veterinary, food processing, whatever the case may be, in these small rural communities, you have a host of people who have unbelievable skill sets.
Stay with the mic, man.
That they've been practicing with themselves and with others, maybe even over generations. But I don't want to let Gregg steal all the fire, by the way. This is a segue. My son Kyle is graduating from the University of Idaho, Moscow on Saturday, the same day as Gregg's daughter is. He is the guy who brought me to anarchism from minarchism, and he will have a mechanical engineering degree. So that's an unpaid advertisement for my kin.
I've been all on my kids. I'm going, man, learn engineering, how to lay brick, go to school. One of my sons is getting his degree in engineering. I'm just going, look, man, if you're not making, building, manufacturing, doing something, you're just prey.
I told Kyle if he pursues alternative energy, which he's interested in, he must leave these United States to practice that, because the Environmental Protection Agency, despite what they give lip service to, will do everything they can to strangle all alternative energy sources in their cradle. You watch.
You know what I heard the big problem with wind energy now is?
Birds.
No. It's even better. They are now claiming that the whirring, the turning of these blades creates some kind of frequency that causes some kind of human problem. Going, never mind, man. I just don't even want to hear anymore. I don't care anymore.
I guarantee whatever it causes, if you put foil on your head, under your hat, it will protect you.
Well, and he's probably half serious. What is this sickness that has brought us to this? I mean, for us to even be discussing this.
Government.
And how are we going to cure ourselves off of that? I mean, you're not going to have the government institutions, the mandatory youth indoctrination camps, their camp leader up there telling them what Big Bubba is saying. But the internet is cracking through that. The next generation of these kids, and they hate when I call them kids and they're 22 or something like that. Well, they're young, okay? But they're way smarter than we were at that age. I mean, they are so much more informed.
Ernie, I have to tell you, and I think this is another program's subject matter, which we shouldn't delve into today, but I do think that this constant and perennial electronic tethering of these last 3 generations is going to cripple them cognitively. But that's not something that it'll take us off track today. But I really think that there's a yin and a yang to the internet. There was a recent news magazine on which the cover was a picture of a man's head in a block of ice, in which they said that it's causing us to have paralysis and brain freeze because of the surfeit of information that we have. We have so much information, people can't take decisions on which direction to go cognitively. So I think that's another subject.
I understand your point, and Gregg can really talk to this because, he has up on the farm dial-up. I mean,
when it works.
When it works. So we got dial-up on the farm, and I'm going, okay. Your 2 girls are homeschooled. They work on the farm. They pursue their own interests, and I'm wondering.
Ours are homeschooled too.
How are they affected by limited access to this trunk of unlimited information? Of course they enjoy it and they access it and they use it for whatever, but what do they do to intellectually stimulate themselves?
Read books.
They do have books, and we buy books, and we use the internet to buy books, unfortunately, because there's no bookstores near us. But my girls read a lot. They have their own interests. They do artwork. They do use dial-up a lot, and a couple times a week they'll go into town to McDonald's with their laptop computers and use the high-speed connection. And they've been known to sit there for up to 8 hours. And I don't know how they can take sitting down for 8 hours, but they do. Not very often. But they have all kinds of their own interests, and they have neighbors around us who are always happy to share information, and neighbors do help each other. It was mentioned earlier about neighbors helping neighbors. We buy our milk. It's a federal crime, but we buy criminal milk, which is really good. And we trade criminal meat, and we do sell chickens, and we think that's legal, but we're not real sure. We just don't worry about it because we're selling them to the local cops too, so we don't worry too much. But every time we drive out our driveway, it's a federal crime because we're crossing a wetland.
Man, where does it stop?
It doesn't until it collapses. Until the government collapses, and most likely it will collapse under its own contradictions, much like Marx would say what happened to capitalism, but unfortunately the Soviet Union collapsed before these United States did. But it is absolutely inevitable when you look at everything we described earlier.
We'll go for the same reasons.
You've been discussing this on your show for months, if not years, all these factors that lead to this collapse that is absolutely inevitable. And it is the hubris and what Hayek would refer to as a fatal conceit on the part of the federal government that's going to lead them over that edge. Much like lemmings, they are going to go over that edge because they won't stop at the cliff. They'll keep going out of their own momentum and inertia.
You would think that they'd see the cliff. And all of a sudden the talking heads kind of stand to the side and start ushering you over the cliff. And we're going to try to avoid the cliff. But what is the cliff? How do you recognize it? Who's trying to throw you over it? What's the benefit to them for it? And how do you just avoid the whole thing and go to the Scottish Highlands and just chill. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but first I know William Bill wants to go in and talk about this minarchist thing. Is there such a thing? Can you have a small government? And Greg will put a bumper sticker on.